Is it possible to predict a breast cancer relapse? This might seem like a dream, but it could soon be our reality thanks to a blood test that can detect tiny traces of cancer cells. The medical world is very excited, and so am I, as this could save many lives. If all the negativity in the media has been getting you down, then you've come to the right place, as here we focus on positive changes around the world. From the recognition of indigenous groups in Australia to a new pain-free medication method for diabetes patients. I'm your host Regis, and get ready for some good news stories that'll leave you feeling pretty optimistic. Our first news story today is for the animal lovers out there, because wild horses have finally returned to their homeland of Kazakhstan after almost 200 years. Przewalski's horses roamed the grasslands of Kazakhstan for thousands of years, but sadly became extinct in the 1960s, except for those living in captivity. Just like in many extinction cases, this was our fault, as overhunting and habitat destruction caused their numbers to drop quickly. The disappearance of these horses was a big loss, as they were the last wild horse species left in the world. For those thinking aren't Mustangs and Brumbies wild horses, the answer is actually no. They're domesticated horses that went wild. Luckily, some of the Przewalski's horses were taken to zoos in the 19th and 20th centuries and put into breeding programs. In the last few decades, the Munich and Prague zoos have started an ambitious project to reintroduce them back into the wild. 8 horses were chosen as the first group to return to Kazakhstan. In early June, they arrived in their homeland after a grueling 30-hour journey with a couple of different flights. This sounds like a nightmare, as horses don't make the best travel companions. One of the issues is that they must stand up the whole time so that their blood circulates properly, including on planes. Unfortunately, one sat down before it got on the plane, so it had to return to the zoo. But thankfully, the other 7 made it to Kazakhstan. Understandably, the horses were very timid when they were first released, but reports say that they're now exploring further into the grasslands and even mating with each other. This is fantastic news for all those involved in the project. The next step is to take 40 more horses over the next 5 years to help the population stabilize and thrive. What a comeback for wild horses, going from not being seen in Kazakhstan for hundreds of years to freely roaming the steppes once more. And while we're on the theme of bringing something back from the brink, a child with end-stage liver disease has received a new liver from his former teacher. 5-year-old Ezra Tozek was born with liver damage, so he's been battling one health challenge after another all his life. He was told that he had end-stage liver disease. Thankfully, in February, he was approved by doctors to go on the transplant list. But as you probably know, joining this list isn't like a quick fix. There are thousands of people waiting for a life-saving donation, and finding a perfect organ match can be a major challenge. After weeks of waiting, things didn't look good for this young boy, and the family's hope was fading. But little did they know that their prayers were about to be answered. Ezra's former preschool teacher, Carissa Fisher, found out about his condition and applied to be a donor in March. Now, unlike other organ donations, you can actually be a liver donor when you're still alive. This is because you only donate part of your liver, and within a couple of months, it grows back so that you have normal liver function again. Fisher didn't tell the Tozek family about being a potential donor, as she didn't want to get their hopes up unnecessarily if she wasn't a match. But after she went through the testing process, she received great news. She was a match for Ezra. On the 25th of May, Fisher went to Ezra's home with a stuffed animal, balloons, and a big sign to share the incredible news. Ezra's mom, Karen, said that the family had been completely shocked and overwhelmed in the best possible way. Their prayers had been answered. I'm sure there wasn't a dry eye left in the room. Such unexpected acts of kindness really do restore your faith in humanity. Ezra's journey is not over yet, as he still must actually have the transplant operation, which the family hopes will take place at the end of this summer. Good luck, Ezra. We're all rooting for you. Young people seem to be front and center of our good news stories today, as 13 young climate activists have just won a historic case against the government in Hawaii. The lawsuit against the Department of Transportation was filed in June 2022. The youth activists argued that the state's pro-fossil fuel transport policies were causing unjustifiable amounts of pollution, contributing to the climate crisis, and destroying Hawaii's natural and cultural heritage. This might be surprising to some of you, as Hawaii is recognized for its significant ambitions in addressing climate change. But in recent years, these efforts have slid back somewhat. Its carbon emissions increased by more than 16% between 2020 and 2021. The fact that the Department of Transportation has not met any of its goals to reduce emissions since 2008 also speaks volumes and explains why the activists chose to focus on this specific sector. The court agreed with these brave activists, declaring that the state's actions violated the people of Hawaii's constitutional right to a clean and healthy environment. A settlement was reached between the two sides, and the Department of Transportation has agreed to fully decarbonize by 2045, a huge statement and one that we're here for. They must reach zero emissions for all ground, sea, and inter-island air transportation. To do this, they'll work with climate activists to develop sustainable methods and meet the new targets. The courage of such young people to go up against the government and put them in their place is an inspiration to us all. Now, something else which will have a more global impact is the development of a new pain-free medication delivery method for those suffering from diabetes. Diabetes is a very well-known and common disease, with about 422 million people suffering from the condition worldwide, so it's likely that you know someone who's been impacted by it, if you haven't been impacted yourself. Insulin is central to this condition, and I'll quickly explain why. So insulin's the hormone that manages our blood sugar levels. For most of us, our bodies produce insulin naturally in the pancreas, but people with diabetes can't produce enough. Their bodies can't regulate their blood sugar after eating a meal, which can cause dangerous side effects. To manage their condition, diabetes patients have to carefully monitor their glucose levels and take insulin when it's too high. At the moment, injections are the fastest way to get insulin into the body, with most people taking around 3 or 4 insulin injections every day. Just the thought of having to inject myself multiple times every day for the rest of my life makes me feel queasy. You guys know how I feel about needles at this point. Not only can this method be painful, but it can also lead to serious complications. So researchers have been trying to come up with a needle-free alternative for years, but with little success due to the tricky nature of the insulin molecule. For the medication to work, the insulin needs to reach the bloodstream, but in pill form, it would get destroyed in the stomach. In some previously developed oral drops, the insulin would get stuck in the lining of the mouth, as being a large molecule, it couldn't get through cells by itself. But finally, scientists at the University of British Columbia have found a solution. Lead researcher Dr. Lee explained that what makes their oral insulin drop unique is the addition of a cell-penetrating peptide, or CPP for short. The CPP allows the insulin to get through the cells and be quickly and efficiently absorbed into the bloodstream. This new method is much easier for patients taking their medication. It could drastically improve the lives of literally millions of people. And I'm sure diabetes patients will be lining up to get these new drops as soon as they become commercially available. Next up, we move to a completely different but also life-changing topic. The Kabi people have finally been recognized as native title holders in Australia. In June, the federal court ruled that they are and always have been the rightful owners of more than 3,650 square kilometers of land in the Sunshine Coast. This decision comes after almost 2 decades of negotiating. Members of the Kabi people shared that the celebration was bittersweet, as many of the elders who bravely started the journey passed away while waiting for the outcome. So, what does the recognition of native title even mean? Well, it allows the Kabi people who have been on the land for thousands of years to be recognized by the public and the government. They can now move on the land, camp, take resources, build temporary structures, hunt fish, and teach their children about living on the countryside. This recognition is extra important because of all the targeted violence, discrimination, and displacement Indigenous people have faced ever since colonization and settlement of the Sunshine Coast started in the 1840s. Despite being massacred and forcibly removed from their land, their culture and presence in the area still remains. This ruling is an acknowledgement of the existence and rights of the Kabi people, and means they no longer have to justify who they are. Now, it's also important to understand that there are 2 types of native title. One gives the title holders exclusive rights to the land, and the other non-exclusive rights. In this case, the court awarded non-exclusive rights. Put simply, the Kabi people can't control who has access to the land. This decision eased worries that access to the prime tourist hotspots, such as the Glass House Mountains and the famous Bribey Island beach, would be restricted. Now, this specific ruling is unique for a couple of reasons. It's the first time that native title has been granted in such a heavily urbanized area on the East Coast. And it's also the first time that the right to take resources from the land has been granted. This is huge, as they once more have access to resources that their ancestors have used for thousands of years. For indigenous people, the taking of resources is not about overuse, but about living sustainably and taking care of the land. We should honestly probably all take a page out of their book. Speaking of sustainability and looking after the land, scientists are trying to take care of our oceans, helped by the fact that a marine fungus has been found that can break down plastic in the sea. I'm pretty excited about this one, as it could be the solution to our massive plastic waste problem. We currently produce over 400 million tons of plastic waste every year. Lots of this ends up in our ocean, getting trapped in subtropical gyres. What on earth are subtropical gyres? Is what I also asked myself when we started looking into this. Let me fill you in. They're ring-shaped currents in the ocean where seawater hardly moves, causing plastic to get stuck. The most famous one is the appropriately named Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or in short GPGP, which holds at least 80,000 tons of floating plastic. To get an idea of how enormous it is, the GPGP covers a surface area about 3 times the size of France. Shocking, I know. So on a trip to the GPGP, microbiologists recently encountered a marine fungus eating away at the rubbish. They found that this fungus, called Parengiodontium album, yes, I can't pronounce it either, but that's my best shot, could break down a plastic called PE. PE is the most common type of plastic waste in the oceans, so this discovery could have a huge impact. But before we get too carried away with the excitement, this fungus isn't all-powerful, as it only breaks down plastic that's been exposed to UV light. This means it'll only be effective on plastic at the surface of the ocean. But scientists are positive that out of all the marine fungi out there, and there's a lot, there's likely to be one that will work in the deeper parts of the ocean as well. While we're waiting for them to find it, this fungus has a ton of surface plastic to get eating away at. Now, before we cover our final good news story for this video, we'd really appreciate your support to help the good news grow. If you're enjoying our content, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, and feel free to share other good news stories in the comments. Who knows? Maybe you'll see one covered in a future video. In our final story for the day, a new blood test has been developed that can predict the return of breast cancer. Yes, you heard that right. Breast cancer is the most common cancer for women and affects a huge number of people. In 2022 alone, 2.3 million women worldwide were diagnosed with the disease, and 670,000 people died. Sadly, breast cancer can return even after someone has beat it once. What's worse is that symptoms often don't show up until it's too late, as the cancer has become incurable. Doctors have explained that catching breast cancer relapse earlier means that the treatment is much more likely to be successful. This new blood test could be a major win in the search for an early detection method. Although the research is still in its very early days, the medical world is extremely excited about its progress. The initial findings show that the test can predict if breast cancer will return before it shows up on scans or symptoms appear. On average, it caught up to 15 months earlier, which is massive. Scans can't detect it so early, as the tiny numbers of cancerous cells that may remain in the blood after treatment don't show up. But the ultra-sensitive blood test looks for mutations in the DNA that are caused by cancerous cells. In the study trial, the blood test correctly identified all patients who then went on to have a breast cancer relapse, a 100% success rate. This really is a momentous occasion in the fight against breast cancer. The future's looking bright, and we're excited to hear about the next developments in this ongoing story. Well, that's all for us today. Which of these stories was your highlight? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching today's episode, and we'll see you next time for more good news.